The Scholastic Games of Lorain County welcome Cassie Brooks, Nico Morello, and Chase Holm, the team from Brookside High School. And the opposing team, E.M. Toth, Olivia Warden, and Helena Runyon, the team from Elyria High School.
It's the award-winning Scholastic Games of Lorain County, a weekly academic competition featuring quiz teams from area high schools, now in its 31st year. Produced with funding from the Northern Corporation, from the Alfred T. Askew Fund, administered by the Community Foundation of Lorain County, and from the Nord Family Foundation with support from the Community West Foundation, and presented on WEOL by the Elyria Public Library System. Now here's your quizmaster, Jim Merling.
Thank you, David, and welcome to the program. This is the first program of our second series of programs. These are the teams that have played before that are coming back to become a winner and to establish a higher winning score. And the teams that are reappearing this time are Brookside and Elyria High Schools. They both did well before, but they came in second. Well, one of them is sure to come in first today. And we'll get to the competition right after we hear the rules from David Mark.
We call this the initial round because it's first, and because every answer will begin with the same letter. Each team will be asked 5 questions, and each answer will have a 10-point value, except for one randomly placed plus points question. That one's worth 20 points. The questions are assigned to the teams by numbers selected by a team captain. Jim?
Okay, Elyria won the toss. Olivia Worden is the captain there. They said they'd go first. Which are 5 numbers from 1 to 10 that you want asked?
Let's do 2, 4, 6, 8. Evens.
2, 4, 6, 8, and there's a fifth one you can also have.
Oh, is there a 10?
Yes, there is a 10. Okay, so you want the even numbers, in other words. Okay, here they are. The letter is V. All the answers begin with V. If you can name them now, you're on your way to victory. Here's your first question. What is Canada's leading Pacific port?
Vancouver.
And Vancouver is absolutely right. We'll move on. What's the smallest member of the camel family? It lives in the Andes Mountains of Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. Its name starts with V. And no one has that? They're not coming up with it? It's a vicuna. Vicuna. We'll move to the next one. What kind of number indicates the ability of a chemical element to combine with other elements? A number that indicates...
Valence.
Valence is right. Okay, you got that one. What's the capital of British Columbia? That's the province in Canada.
Vancouver.
And it's Victoria, so we can't score on that one. How many of the U.S. states start with the letter V out of 50? I would give the percentage, but that would be too much of a clue.
Is it 1?
It's actually 2. They are Virginia and Vermont. So that's your part of the round. Remaining questions of this round go to the team from Brookside, and here they are, the odd numbers. Our answers is the name of the most important Russian port on the Pacific Ocean. It lies near the east end of the Trans-Siberian Railroad. A city that begins with the letter V. Do we know it? It's Vladivostok. Vladivostok. What name is given to a system for the conduction of fluids around a living organism, such as the circulatory system in animals? A system whose name starts with the letter V, about the conduction of fluids in a living organism. And we'll have to...
The vascular system?
Vital system?
It is the vascular system, just under the wire. Okay, that scores your first 10 points. What was the name of the great hall of the dead heroes in Norse mythology?
Valhalla.
Valhalla is correct. And the next one you have, you'll be glad to hear, is the plus points question. And it scores 20 if you get the answer. Here's the question. The act of Congress that provided for enforcement of prohibition under the 18th Amendment had what name? As usual, named for the legislator who sponsored it. the act of Congress that provided for enforcement of the ill-fated.
The Volstead Act?
Volstead Act is exactly right. You scored 20 points with that. And we'll move on. A French novelist is the next answer. He was born in 1828 and wrote some of the earliest and best science fiction stories. His last name starts with V.
Jules Verne.
Jules Verne is the person. And let's see, that was 9, 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Those are your 5 questions. We're ready for the score up to this point from David Mark.
After one round, the score is Brookside 50, Elyria 20.
Okay, so Brookside definitely in the lead at this point, but there's a lot of the program to come. Current events questions are next after a very short break.
Did you know that 10% of those living in poverty experience homelessness? Help the homeless today at sucksplus.org. Sucks Plus is an initiative of Community West Foundation that helps homeless people in Greater Cleveland by collecting socks, boots, clothing, and more for their neighbors in need. Help the homeless today by visiting sucksplus.org to learn more. Anyone can give. Anyone can help. sucksplus.org to help today.
You're listening to the Scholastic Games. We're ready for round 2. Here are the rules from David Mark.
Our second round will feature questions from current events and issues. As in round 1, the first team will select its questions by number to guarantee random assignment. Each team will hear 5 questions. Each correct answer will be worth 10 points, except for one plus points question worth 20 points. Jim?
Thank you, David. Olivia Warden is the captain. Again, give us 5 numbers between 1 and 10 to pick the questions.
Let's just keep doing evens.
Even numbers. One nation's constitutional tribunal, its highest court, ruled that a near-total ban on abortion is legal. After the ruling, for 3 straight nights, thousands turned out to protest it. What is the country where these widespread protests of a near-total ban on abortions occurred? A European country.
Poland.
And it is indeed the country of Poland. A fierce critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin, voting rights advocate Stacey Abrams, former White House advisor Jared Kushner, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the World Health Organization. What do they all have in common? Well, they're all among nominees for what award in 2021 considered the world's most prestigious prize.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobel Peace Prize is right. Another score for the team from Elyria. And you get an audio question, a voice in the news.
We'll do another thing. We'll take steps towards my goal of achieving 100% carbon pollution-free electric sector by 2035. Transforming the American electric sector to produce power without carbon pollution will be a tremendous spur to job creation and economic competitiveness in the 21st century.
In signing the climate change executive order, the president also shut down the billion-dollar Keystone Pipeline project, which was to carry oil from what country to refineries in what U.S. state? A two-part answer. Oh, and I forgot to mention that this is the plus points question. 20 points if you get it, but we need 2 answers. From what country to refineries in what U.S. state?
Navajo Nation in Nevada.
And I'm sorry, it's from the station from Canada to Texas. Refineries actually were the terminus points that were projected for that. So no score on that one. Let us move on to your 4th one. The German chancellor announced recently she will not seek a 5th term. Who is this high-profile European leader, Chancellor of Germany?
Merkel.
Angela Merkel is correct, and one more for your team. Upon taking office, the Biden administration has renewed an effort to replace President Andrew Jackson on the nation's $20 bill. Who is the pioneer civil rights activist who would be depicted on the new $20 bill?
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet Tubman is right. Another score, and remaining questions go to the other team. Brookside on the screen. Here are your remaining questions from the odd numbers. An iconic American car maker recently pledged that it would stop making gasoline-powered passenger cars, vans, and sport utility vehicles by the year 2035. Which automaker promised the future will be new electric vehicles?
Ford.
And unfortunately, it was General Motors, so no score on that one. Your next one, another audio question, another voice in the news.
often get asked, should you be wearing 2 masks or 1 mask? And I say, there's no recommendation. However, there are many people who take the common sense approach. If you're talking about a physical barrier, and as the CDC recommends, you want at least 2 layers within the mask as a physical barrier, and you feel maybe more of a physical barrier would be better, there's nothing wrong with people wearing 2 masks.
Well, a much heard government medical advisor responding to the advisability of 2 masks. Who was that person? Who is it?
Dr. Fauci.
Dr. Anthony Fauci is correct. I guess everyone knows his name by now. What is the Asian country located between Bangladesh and China where a recent military coup deposed the Nobel Prize winner Suu Kyi, her top ministers, and other leaders, ending a democracy which had existed in that country for 5 years? An Asian country?
Myanmar.
And Myanmar is right.
Myanmar.
Yeah, Myanmar is correct, formerly Burma. Scoring 10, we would have scored 10 points with either one, since many still refer to it as Burma, even officials in the U.S. government. Why were residents of 5 Northeast Ohio nursing homes required to be revaccinated against the COVID-19 virus after reviews by the Ohio Department of Health and the Centers for Disease Control? A very specific reason that certain residents were required to be revaccinated.
They were given the wrong dosage.
It wasn't really the wrong dosage. It was improperly stored vaccine. It has to be stored at very low temperatures and thawed only for a certain amount of time, and that was a problem at a certain Walgreens. One more for this team from Brookside. The number 3 ranking Republican leader in the House of Representatives who enraged a number of her Wyoming constituents after voting to impeach President Trump managed to retain her position of leadership in the Congress. Who is this representative with a familiar political surname?
Liz Cheney.
Liz Cheney, the daughter of the former vice president. And that's the end of this round.
After 2 rounds, Jim, the score is Brookside 80, Elyria 60.
Okay, very close, and both teams are doing well, and we'll continue with our theme round right after a short break.
Why do you want to go to college? To become something more? To find your line and go beyond it? To make someone's life better? To start on a path to a productive career? That's why the University of Findlay is here. Since 1882, a community of passionate learners, inspiring the best in each other. Learn more at findlay.edu.
After 2 rounds, Jim, the score is Brookside 80, Elyria 60.
Welcome back to the Scholastic Games of Lorain County. We're up to round 3. Here are the rules from David Mark.
The third round has 10 10-point questions like rounds 1 and 2, but all questions will be related to a particular theme. Like earlier rounds, 5 questions will be directed to each team, this time with a set of questions selected by the other team, as the captain selects odd or even numbered questions. A big difference in this round when there is an incorrect answer or no answer from the team to which the question is directed. The other team will have a chance to answer it. Again in this round, there will be 1 randomly placed plus points question. Jim?
Thank you, David. We'll go to the captain of the Brookside team, Cassie Brooks, this time, and let her decide whether to have the odd or even numbers.
I'll have the odds.
The theme is pairs. A famous pair of people. Yes, they're all people. A famous pair of people is the answer to every question, and we need both members of that pair. And again, the odd numbers go to Brookside, so they go first. One half of this couple took his life by falling on his sword. She took her own life with poison, not as described in legend, by snake bite. Who were they? Again, Brookside first.
Cleopatra and Mark Antony.
And Marcus Anthony or Mark Antony and Cleopatra are the correct answer. Number 2 goes to the team from Elyria. He was the sovereign Prince of Orange who ascended to the English throne in 1689. He and his wife essentially co-ruled until his death in 1702. She endowed a college in America in 1693 that bears their name and still stands today. Who were these monarchs?
William and Mary.
William and Mary, correct, scoring for Elyria. Moving back to Brookside, these 2 wealthy college students from Chicago murdered a 14-year-old boy in 1924 as an attempt to show their intellect and commit a perfect crime. It was not. Both were caught, sentenced to life in prison plus 99 years. Legendary lawyer Clarence Darrow saved them both from the death penalty, but not from a life sentence. Name these 2 criminals. Very famous from the 1920s. They were without an answer. We'll give Elyria a chance. They were with no answer from Elyria, either team. Leopold and Loeb. Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb. Let's go back to Elyria first for this next one. Famous for a rampage of bank jobs and other robberies. These aren't all criminals. This next 2 in a row are. Bank jobs and other robberies. The famous hunt for these 2 outlaws ended with their being shot to death by officers in 1934. Who were this pair who were memorialized in a violent 1967 film? And this is for Elyria.
Is it Bonnie and Clyde?
Bonnie and Clyde, yeah, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow, scoring for Elyria. We go first to Brookside for the next question. In 1796, she was a 32-year-old widow, and he was a rising military and political leader. Their romance was expressed and preserved in many love letters they exchanged through the years. He is most famous, though, for becoming Emperor of France. Who were the pair?
Napoleon and Josephine.
Napoleon and Josephine, scoring for Brookside. And we go back to Elyria. Coincidentally, this next one is the plus points question, which scores 20 if you get the answer. Greek mythology considered her the most beautiful woman in the world, and when he abducted her from her husband, King Menelaus of Sparta, the Trojan War began and eventually took his life. Myth has her returning to her husband. Who were this pair for 20 points?
Paris and Helen.
And Paris and Helen of Troy, scoring 20 points for the team from Elyria. And the next one goes to Brookside. From literature, these star-crossed lovers belong to 2 feuding families. They fall in love despite this, and both meet tragic ends in Shakespeare's literary work of the 1590s. Who are they?
Romeo and Juliet.
That is correct. And we go back to Elyria for our next question after that score for Brookside. This scientific dynamic duo did pioneering research in radioactivity, awarded the Nobel Prize for Physics in 1903. Name this pair.
Mary and Pierre Curie.
Pierre and Marie Curie is correct. And the next to last one goes to the Brookside team. She was the daughter of Powhatan, chief of a network of Native American tribes living in Virginia's Tidewater area at the time of the Jamestown settlement in 1607. He was an early settler in Virginia and was the first to cultivate and export tobacco. Who were this pair that married in 1614?
Pocahontas and John Rolfe.
That is correct. Another score for Brookside, and there's one more in this round going back to Elyria. From nursery rhyme characters to comic book villains to cartoons, these 2 plump, identical-looking men are most associated with the Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, and their names are often applied derisively to a pair of people who are so alike you can't tell them apart.
Is it Tweedledee and Tweedledum?
Tweedledee and Tweedledum, scoring our final 20 points in this round to Elyria. And if David has the score, he'll give it to us now.
After 3 rounds, Brookside has 120 points. So does Elyria.
Oh, my. We've reached a tie at this point, and the highest scoring rounds are ahead, so it could go either way. And it'll go there as soon as we take enough of a break to find out more about the students and the schools. So let us go first to the team that won the toss, which was Elyria, and we'll find out who each of the team members are, beginning first with team captain Olivia Worden.
Hi, I'm Olivia Warden, and I go to Elyria High School. And I just wanted to thank our two coaches from Elyria, Mr. Secar and Mr. Daniels, for allowing us and teaching us these last couple of years.
Hi, I'm Elena Rennion. I'm a junior at Elyria High School. I do academic challenge as well as other groups, and I also play in the school orchestra.
Hello, I'm Em. I'm a senior at Elyria High, and I'm involved in academic challenge among other groups, and I'm grateful to be here.
That's the team from Elyria High School. We thank them as we move across to the other side of my computer screen and meet the team from Brookside High School. The captain there is Cassie Brooks.
Hi, my name is Cassie Brooks. I'm a junior at Brookside High School, and after high school, I plan to study microbiology. And I also want to say how grateful I am to be here.
Hi, my name is Nico Morello, and I am a sophomore at Brookside. Besides academic challenge, I am part of the Brookside soccer team and Brookside's Ohio Mile United Nations.
Hey, what's up? My name's Chase. I'm a junior at Brookside. I like baseball, hockey, and guitars, and I'm happy to be here.
And that's the team from Brookside High School. We've met the two teams, and next on the agenda is our fourth round.
People, places, and things are the focus of this round, in which 5 famous people, events, institutions, or famous locations will be described, each with a series of clues of decreasing difficulty. This is traditionally a buzz-in round. In the absence of buzzers, when a team is ready to answer, any team member may interrupt the clue by calling out the name of the team or school. It will stop the asking of the question. An answer coming from the first clue is worth 50 points. After 2 clues, it's worth 40 points, and it diminishes to 30, 20, and 10 points as succeeding clues are required. After either team gives an incorrect answer, that team is eliminated from that particular item, and only the other team may respond and score from the remaining clues. If both teams call out simultaneously and the judges cannot determine which was first, the subject of that series of clues will be discarded.
We can only hear one person at a time. So if you have an answer, say the name of your school or your team clearly and distinctly and fairly loudly so that we stop the question and give you a chance to answer first. Our first item is a person, and here is your 50-point clue. When he led his band of protesters into his country's capital city in 1922, the result was his being named Prime Minister. That's the 50-pointer. For 40 points, under his aggressive foreign policy, his country later invaded and took control of Ethiopia. For 30 points, before he was made head of the government, anger among the populace had arisen from the way the country had been treated under provisions of the Treaty of Versailles.
Elyria?
And that's an Elyria buzz.
Is it Adolf Hitler?
And it is not Hitler, so remaining clues go to the team from Brookside. That was the 30-point clue that we gave. Here's the 20-point clue. After taking office, he quickly assumed dictatorial power. Certainly similarities to Hitler, but not a correct answer. Brookside is buzzing.
Benito Mussolini.
Mussolini is the correct answer, a 20-point answer for Brookside. Both teams are certainly on the right track. And we go on to our next item, another person. For 50 points, he's most famous for something named for him, and that should possibly give it to you. His last name will be a sufficient answer. Born April 9th, 1905 in Missouri, he grew up in Arkansas and entered the University of Arkansas at age 16. For 40 points, from 1925 to 1928, he studied at Oxford University in England as a Rhodes Scholar. For 30 points, President Clinton once worked in his Senate office as a clerk, long before his becoming president, of course, while attending Georgetown University. For 20 points, a scholarship program which bears this man's name was originally funded by the sale of surplus World War II equipment. And finally, the 10-point clue. He died February 9th, 1995 in Washington, D.C. The scholarships named for him go on. And if we have no responses, I'll say it's James William Fulbright. The Fulbright Scholars are what we're talking about. A thing is our next item for 50 points. This group was formed in 1157 and lasted until 1669. It began because of a need for protection. For 40 points, merchants banded together to discuss the economic policies of monopolies and trading practices. For 30 points, in the 13th and 14th centuries, it exercised wide commercial powers and initiated many boycotts. For 20 points, its members established many commercial centers in foreign cities such as London and Bergen in Norway. And finally, for 10 points, the Confederation's strength declined with the rise of nationalism in Europe. This once powerful group derived its name from the word for guild in Middle English, French, Latin, and Middle Low German, Hansa, or Hansa.
Brookside.
And Brookside has an answer.
The Hanseatic League.
The Hanseatic League for 10 points, but it's a score for the team from Brookside. And we move on to another person. For 50 points, he was born in Texas in 1890 and had 5 brothers, Arthur, Edgar, Roy, Earl, and Milton. He was certainly the most famous, though, the one we're going for. For 40 points in 1910, after graduating from high school, he applied for appointments at both Annapolis and West Point. The one he received was West Point. For 30 points in 1948, after a distinguished military career, he retired from active duty and became president of Columbia.
Brookside.
Brookside has an answer.
Eisenhower.
Dwight David Eisenhower's is the correct answer, a score for 30 points for Brookside. We would have mentioned his being Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in Europe during World War II in our 20-point clue, and, of course, his presidency in the 10-point clue, which we didn't need. A place is our next item for 50 points. They are a chain of approximately 3,000 coral islands and reefs that make up an independent nation in the West Indies. For 40 points, they extend from about 50 miles off the eastern coast of Florida to the northeast tip of Cuba, a distance of over 500 miles. For 30 points, on his 1492 voyage, Christopher Columbus first landed on what is now San Salvador Island on this island chain.
Elyria.
And Elyria Buzz response.
Is it the Caribbean?
Caribbean is not the answer. Remember, we're going for a chain of islands. Remaining clues, therefore, go to Brookside. For 20 points, about 20 of the islands are inhabited, and roughly 3/4 of the native people live on 2 of the islands, one of which is New Providence. And for 10 points, their capital is Nassau.
Brookside.
And Brookside responds.
The Bahamas.
Bahamas is right, the Bahamas. Another 10-point score. And that's the end of the round. We're going to add up those numbers and give them to you at the beginning of our next segment, which follows a very short break, which is right now. You're listening to the Scholastic Games on WEOL.
This program, the Scholastic Games of Lorain County, is produced with the support of the Community West Foundation, with funding from Nordson Corporation, the Nord Family Foundation, and the Alfred T. Askew Fund, administered by the Community Foundation of Lorain County. We're presented on WEOL by the Elyria Public Library System.
We'll get to our final round in just a moment. First, I want to give a plug to all of the colleges and universities that have supported our Tuition Credit Award program. We thank Ashland University, Baldwin-Wallace University, Tiffin University, Oberlin College, Heidelberg University, Ursuline College, John Carroll University, Lake Erie College, Lorain County Community College, the University of Findlay. And now back to David for the score up to this point.
Up to this point, being the end of the 4th round, the score is Brookside 190, Elyria 120.
Okay, both teams are doing very well, and it's time to move into that final round with the rules. And again, back to you, David.
This is our 5th and final round in today's competition. This program is heard on WEOL 930 on the AM dial, and this round will consist of 9 minutes and 30 seconds of toss-up and bonus questions. Toss-up questions will be directed to the 2 teams in alternation, beginning with the team that went second in the first 2 rounds. When a toss-up question is heard, a team that answers correctly will earn 10 points, plus an opportunity to hear and answer a bonus question, which can earn that team an additional 20 points. When an incorrect answer is given, the team will lose 10 points, and the other team will be given a chance to hear the entire question and score accordingly. When a team answers the other team's question, the following toss-up question will still be directed to that team. There are no deducted points for missed bonus questions.
Thank you, David. Ready to start out? At the end of our 9.5 minutes, we'll hear our timekeeper come in with this sound and this announcement.
And it's time.
Okay, and that's it. Okay, Cassie Brooks of Brookside will let you decide, do you want odds or evens in this final round?
Odds.
Odd numbers once again. Okay, you get the first question, which is this. 1/8 of a number plus 1/16 of the same number equals 3. What is the number? 1/8 of it plus 1/16 of it is equal to the number 3. What's the number? If we can't get a quick head calculation.
16.
16 is right. Okay, and the bonus question is, what is the unit of weight equal to 1/16 of a pound in the British avoirdupois system? Equal to 1/16 of a pound.
An ounce.
And that's an ounce for your 20 bonus points. And we have an audio question as the first one for the Elyria team. Name the poet, author of these lines in a reading by actor and educator John Buck, Jr.
The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep.
Name the poet, author of the lines of this reading.
Robert Frost.
It is indeed Robert Frost, and the bonus question is, what is the full title of the poem? I think there's 7 words in it. If you get at least 6 of them, at least 4, we will count it as a correct answer. Does anyone on the team know that? Well, I'll have to call time. It's Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Elyria gets first crack at the next question. Scientists measure the distances between planets in AUs. What do the letters AU stand for? Scientists measure the distances between planets in them. Okay, Brookside, what do the letters AU stand for? And we're not getting an answer there either. They are astronomical units. Now for Brookside, what's the process by which plants convert sunlight to food?
Photosynthesis.
That's photosynthesis, a correct answer. The bonus question for Brookside, what is the rock-like substance formed underwater by the skeletons of sea animals?
Fossils.
And that's a description of coral, so no score on the bonus. Let's go back to the team from Elyria. The vote to impeach Andrew Johnson failed by how many votes?
1.
And only 1. Bonus question for Elyria. Had the vote been successful, what Ohio senator would have become president? There's a park in Cleveland named for him, and he's not that famous otherwise. With no answer on the bonus, Benjamin Franklin Wade would have become president and a lot more memorable. Back to Brookside for this one. In Greek mythology, what nymph pined away for love of Narcissus until only her voice was left?
Echo.
Echo is correct. And the bonus question for Brookside, what Greek mythological figure was punished for his crimes by being compelled to spend eternity trying in vain to push a huge boulder up a hill?
Sisyphus.
Sisyphus is right for 20 bonus points. Back to Elyria for an audio question. Name the Russian composer of this music. This is an excerpt from Pictures at an Exhibition, a suite in which a succession of musical episodes represented a visit to an art gallery. It was composed by what Russian composer? And let's give Brookside a chance at this. Do you know the Russian composer of Pictures at an Exhibition? And we don't. Okay, it was Modest Mussorgsky, and of course it was orchestrated by Ravel. Let's go back to Brookside for this next one. If vitamin B1 is thiamine, what is vitamin B2? What's its other name? And how about Elyria? Does Elyria have an answer to that one? That's riboflavin. So let's go back to Elyria first. As we travel using GPS, in that designation, what does the G stand for?
Global.
And global is right, Global Positioning System. A bonus question, in relation to motor speeds and the abbreviation RPM, what does the R stand for?
Rate.
And it's revolutions. No score in the bonus. Back to Elyria for the first crack at the next one. Marilyn Monroe, Elvis, Campbell's soup cans, Coca-Cola bottles, and other pop images were favorite subjects of what controversial American artist who predicted that everyone eventually would become famous for 15 minutes?
Warhol.
Warhol, yes. Andy Warhol is correct. Bonus question. The young Andrew Warhol grew up in what city in a state that neighbors Ohio that now houses the Andy Warhol Museum?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh is correct for 20 bonus points. For Brookside, this next question. During the Civil War, Lincoln was president. Who was president during most of World War II?
FDR.
FDR or Franklin Roosevelt? Acceptable answers. Bonus question, going a bit further back in our history. Who was president during the War of 1812?
James Madison.
Madison is right for 20 bonus points to Brookside. Back to Elyria for this question. The prefix pyro means what?
Fire.
Fire is right. Bonus question. The prefix hydro means what?
Water.
And that's water for 20 bonus points to Elyria. Back to Brookside. 1100 is to 1500 as 2200 is to what number? Or we could say 1,100 is to 1,500 as 2,200 is to
3,000.
And 3,000 is correct for 10 points. Bonus question. What kind of figure has twice as many sides as a square?
An octagon.
That's an octagon for 20 points. Okay, back to Elyria. That's scored for Brookside. And Elyria's question. Mount Blanc is the highest mountain in what range? Mount Blanc, B-L-A-N-C. A question for Elyria. And with no response, a question for Brookside. Mount Blanc is part of what range? And with no response, it's part of the Alps. Brookside first on this one. Due to the Coriolis effect, water running from a perfectly symmetrical basin in the northern hemisphere would drain in a particular manner. Would it swirl clockwise, counterclockwise, or go straight down, according to the Coriolis effect? Northern hemisphere. Let's throw it over to Elyria. And with no response in a counterclockwise manner. This one goes first to Elyria. Does sound travel faster in water or in air, or is it the same?
In water.
It does travel faster in water. Bonus question to Elyria. Because of atomic structure, how are silicon, gallium, germanium, bismuth, plutonium, and acetic acid similar to water? Again, silicon, gallium, germanium, bismuth, plutonium, and acetic acid are all similar to water. In what way? Because of their atomic structure. And you've earned the bonus. So even though our time is up, which I hear with that sound effect going off, you can answer.
Is it the number of valence electrons?
And it is not that. They are less dense in a solid state. You know, ice is... When water freezes, it's a little larger because of the structure. It's the same with those other elements. So no score in that final one, but that's the end of our 9.5 minutes, and we've had quite a few questions, a lot of scoring, and we'll give you the final score after a short break. We'll also tell you who our standout scholar is. That's the student who contributed the most to his or her team in the judgment of our judges and scorekeepers. They're polling each other right now about that, as well as double-checking the final score. All of that after a short break.
Well, going into this fifth and final round in today's competition, the score had been Brookside 190, Elyria 120. Then the winning team picked up an additional 130 points. The runner-up team picked up an additional 100 points. Well, at the final sound, which we'll have to do for a gong, the score is Elyria 220, Brookside 320. Our winner is Brookside.
Well, good job for both teams, both high scores, and Brookside has a winning score this time, and we congratulate them. Also, I have to look at my little chat here to find out who has been named the standout scholar. And our standout scholar is Cassie Brooks of Brookside, the captain there. Congratulations, Cassie. Good job. And she'll be getting the $50 award that goes to the standout scholar in connection with this program. And there can be additional awards. In fact, there is a new one on each show, so when you come back for playoffs, you can win it again. We have a number of multiple winners over the years. That's it for this week's program. Let me take a quick look at my schedule. Next week, we have two more teams in competition. It'll be Avon and Amherst Marion L. Steele, so we hope you'll join us next week. It'll be their return engagements as well. One of those teams will end up with a winning score. And as I said before, the highest winning scores, the 8 highest, will be our quarterfinals this year. I'm Jim Merling. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the Scholastic Games of Lorain County. Produced by Jim Merling, co-written by Bob Tayak. Production assistance was provided by AAME Coca ML and Richard McDaniel. Support for the program comes from the Community West Foundation, utilizing grants from the Nordson Corporation, the Alberti Askew Fund, administered by the Community Foundation of Lorain County, and the Nord Family Foundation. We're sponsored on WEOL by the Elyria Public Library System. And this is David Mark.